Yellowstone is vast. From its great sweeping plains to the fossilized bones of an ancient forest, its expanse contains countless natural wonders. Spanning over 8,000 square kilometers, Yellowstone National Park is the jewel of northwest Wyoming, spilling over man-made borders into neighboring Montana and Idaho. The core of the Greater Yellow ecosystem, 5% of the park is covered by water, with over 220 lakes and nearly 4,500 kilometers of riverine systems. Nestled in the heart of the park is the pristine Yellowstone Lake, the largest alpine body of water in North America. It has over 220 kilometers of shoreline, and the lake has a surface area of 342 square kilometers. Its deep, icy blue waves hold hidden depths, and the lake at points plunges to 120 meters deep. When the snows fall on the ranges and the cold dark creeps in, Yellowstone Lake freezes over, not thawing fully until May or June. Ice, almost a meter thick, covers its surface, except for where its shallower waters cover hot springs heated by the lava flows deep beneath the caldera in which the lake lies. Sitting at a lofty 3,000 meters above sea level, Yellowstone Lake is a bone-chilling 5 degrees Celsius year-round. Though its freezing waters are hazardous to swim in, the lake is an important fixture of the park, with wolves, bears, otters and birds all relying on the bounty of its water. Further afield, lodgepole pine forests dominate the landscape, their dark green needles rising tall against an endless blue sky. Scattered between are serene alpine meadows, breaking up the lodgepole pine's reign. Elsewhere, grassland and sagebrush steppe dot the ranges, feeding elk, bison, and bighorn sheep throughout the harsh winter months. During the long, hot summer, elk graze along the Cascade Meadows, Madison Canyon, and the Lamar Valley. Their numbers range from 10 to 20,000 across 6 to 7 different herds, but less than 4,000 spend their winter in the park. From early September to mid-October, elk gather for the rut. Males will trumpet, calling to available females and declaring their readiness to mate. Their impressive antlers are for more than just display, although showing off to females present is a vital part of the courting process. Bulls will display their antlers, lowering their heads and challenging each other. Though impressive, these fights rarely result in injury. Eventually, the weaker bull will give up. The bigger a bull's antlers, the higher he stands on the elk social structure, giving him preferential pick of grazing areas and cows. A bull elk's first set of antlers will begin growing when he is around 1 year old. The bulls will drop the previous year's rack around March and April, with new growth beginning soon after. These new, fresh antlers are covered in soft fuzz called velvet. Once the period of antler growth has ended, a bull will scrape off the velvet, revealing the fresh growth beneath. This cycle of growth and renewal is not limited to elk either. The circle of life is ever present in the park, intrinsically linked to the cycle of the seasons. And as the seasons change, so too does the park. As the snow melts and the last frosts recede, migratory birds return to the park, heralding spring. The season of growth, spring is the time that many plants emerge from their long winter rest. Yellowstone is home to over 1,100 species of native plants, including hundreds of wildflowers in all colours of the rainbow. During spring, its meadows explode in a cacophony of colour as wildflowers burst forth from their slumber. Deep in their dens, awakened by the warming weather, something else begins to emerge. Ursus arctos horribilis, the grizzly bear. Grizzlies are immense. One of the largest predators in North America, an adult male is capable of weighing in at over 300 kilograms. Standing at an average of 102 centimeters at the shoulder, an adult grizzly can reach almost 8 feet when standing on its hind legs. King of the bears, the grizzly's reach once extended from Alaska to Mexico, but over the years their numbers have dwindled. In 1975, grizzly bears were listed as a federally threatened species in North America, in part due to ongoing bear-human conflicts. Though they remain a threatened species, today grizzly bear numbers in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem have mostly stabilized, thanks in part to the ongoing conservation efforts of the park services. But bears and humans have a long history of interactions since the park first opened, when bears began to frequent human-habituated areas looking for food. These areas, the parks, hotels and campsites, were easy sources of food, ones that bears would seek out to beg or scavenge from. Once upon a time, people would gather at night to watch these bears feed on garbage in Yellowstone's dumps, or they would feed them along the roadside. From 1931, an average of 48 bear-inflicted human injuries were recorded by park managers each year until 1960, when the park implemented a bear management program. 10 years later, by 1970, that number of incidents had only decreased to an average of 45 a year. But by the 2000s, this number had dropped to just 1 injury each year in the park. Though bear numbers have stabilized in recent years, they, like many other species, still face ongoing threats. Among those threats is the looming presence of climate change, but closer to home, human interventions still have long-reaching impacts. A lack of food resources is just another of the threats that grizzlies face. In the freshwater streams of the national park, glistening bodies of slinky trout flash red and gold as they hide amongst the river rocks. With their spotted golden-brown bodies and the characteristic reddish-orange slash along their throat, cutthroat trout are easily identifiable, and they're one of the grizzly bear's favorite foods. Native to the western United States, the cutthroat trout is a keystone species, a term first coined in 1969 by zoologist Robert T. Payne. In architecture, a keystone is a wedge-shaped stone used to support the top of an arch, usually in a bridge, doorway or window. Without this stone, the entire structure falls apart. So too do ecosystems without their keystone species. Cutthroat trout are threatened by invasive lake trout species, which are thought to have been introduced to the park sometime in the late 1800s. Their existence in the waters of the park wasn't discovered much later, in 1994, and it's believed that their introduction to the ecosystem was done illegally. These invasive species compete for food and resources, and in some cases kill native cutthroat trout, throttling their population. In the years following the discovery of these non-native species, native fish conservation programs have been introduced, aimed at culling the population of invasive fish to allow the native trout to thrive. Over nearly 30 years, more than 4.5 million lake trout have been removed via gill netting, with over 236,000 removed in 2023 alone. The native trout conservation programs have been successful, with predatory lake trout numbers being reduced by 92%. As their numbers dwindled, cutthroat trout numbers have increased, which in turn brought grizzlies and black bears returning to tributaries during spring. But throughout the cold, long winter months, bears enter hibernation, a period of rest that they spend the rest of the year preparing for. Whether or not the deep, cold-induced sleep that bears experience is truly hibernation has been the subject of much debate, but in recent years it has been accepted as the most appropriate term to describe the state of rest that bears experience during these colder months. A 2013 study by Sardo et al. Found that brown bears, which grizzlies are considered a subspecies of, have fewer innate immune cells in circulation during hibernation. This, the study suggests, could represent a suppressed immune system. But despite not eating or drinking for months on end during hibernation, bears do not experience osteoporosis or muscular atrophy. Autumn brings a crisp chill to the air and colour to the leaves, but for bears, it also brings something else. Hunger. Sub-zero temperatures are hard on the body, and in order to survive, a grizzly bear must nearly double its body weight. In preparation for their months of hibernation, bears experience hyperphagia, a period of intense hunger where they consume upwards of 20,000 calories a day. Pine nuts are a familiar food to us humans, but they're also an important part of a grizzly bear's diet. While they're visually distinct from those that we know in the supermarket, these are edible just the same. In Yellowstone, these nuts come from the whitebark pine, a keystone species that makes up subalpine and tree-lined forests. The sturdy roots of these pine forests dig deep into the rock and soil on steep mountainous slopes, where they flourish in the cold. But whitebark pines can grow elsewhere, interspersed between lodgepole pine, spruce, and fir. What makes a whitebark pine nut so attractive to a hungry bear is their caloric content. High energy, these nuts are rich in fats, carbohydrates, and protein, all of which are necessary fuels for a fattening bear prepping for hibernation. There is just one problem though. Bears are terrible climbers, thanks to their weight and curved claws. The cones of whitebark pines have a special property. Unlike other species of conifers, whitebark pine cones don't split open and scatter their seeds when they mature. Instead, creatures like squirrels, birds, and even bears must force these cones open to get at the prize within. Fast, small, and something of a hoarder, the red squirrel will collect a bounty of whitebark pine cones and other nuts in a midden, preparing for the long, hard winter ahead. When autumn sweeps in with its vibrant frost-tinged orange, these middens become a tantalizing prospect for raiding bears. A hungry grizzly will pillage a red squirrel's midden, devouring the entire cache in a single sitting. Birds too will frequent these trees. Clark's nutcracker, a small grey bird with dark wings and a pointed beak, perfect for picking pine nuts free from their cone, can fly up to 20 miles to cache whitebark pine seeds. The trees themselves sprout from these uneaten caches, and so rely on these birds to continue on their legacy. But nuts are not the only food that a bear will feast on. Omnivorous, the grizzly bear will eat just about anything, depending on season and availability. Though their diet primarily consists of ungulates like elk and bison, the grizzly bear does not discriminate. From sedges, dandelion, berries and clover, to army cutworm moths and even ants, a grizzly bear will devour what it can in order to gain the needed winter weight. The sheer scale of this caloric gain is well needed, as during their hibernation, bears can remain in their den for months on end. The fat gained during the warmer months continues to provide them energy, even as their body temperature, pulse rate, and breathing drops. Something else happens during hibernation too: the miracle of life. For the grizzly bear, spring and summer are the seasons of love. Between May to mid-July, grizzlies will begin searching for a mate, and females may mate with more than one male during this time. But nature can be cruel. Many females emerge from the den with cubs in tow, but this emergence in spring coincides with the breeding season for bears. A male grizzly seeking to mate may kill a female's cubs, resetting her breeding cycle so that she might copulate earlier with him. This act is referred to as sexually selected infanticide. Though his study primarily focused on bears in Canada, Bruce N. McClelland's 2005 article published in Ursus evaluated the process in brown bears. Traditionally, sexually selected infanticide occurs in species where a dominant male has exclusive breeding rights. If that dominant male dies or is removed, through old age, sickness, aggression, or by human influence like hunting, the male who takes his place will kill the previously sired offspring, thus enabling the females to breed. McClelland argues that this form of SSI, called the immigrant male hypothesis, does not occur in grizzly bears. Instead, he proposes a second hypothesis, the mate recognition hypothesis. This interpretation of SSI suggests that grizzly bear males of any age will, if granted the opportunity and ability to, kill cubs that they did not sire in the year before. But mother grizzlies are ferocious creatures. Mama bear is a well-earned title after all. A grizzly bear mother will defend her cubs from danger, even when that danger is a male bear looking to breed. Though a female grizzly may become pregnant early in spring, gestation does not begin until much later. Bears and some other carnivores experience a process called delayed implantation, where the development of an embryo ceases for several months. This is to ensure that the pregnancy will be viable. As bears must gain a significant amount of weight to survive winter, their bodies will naturally cease to start a pregnancy if they haven't put on enough weight to see them through the winter months. A female grizzly will give birth in the safety of her den, often dug in hollow trees or logs, under the protective roof of a mass of tree roots, or even in tight, rocky crevices. bears are clever architects. In Yellowstone, these dens are often at the base of trees facing north. In 1972, Craighead and Craighead note that this orientation would allow snowfall to insulate the den, keeping its denizens warm and safe within. As winter wanes, a female bear will bring her cubs into the warming world, nursing them until they emerge together in spring. Cubs are playful things. With their adorable looks and curious nature, it's all too easy to become entranced by their antics as they explore, climb, and sometimes fall. A mother may birth between 1 and 3 cubs, and these will remain with her for up to 2 years, before breaking off to find mates and have cubs of their own. As the seasons change and the cycle of life continues, there is a shift in activity for predators. Nestled safe within their dens, sleeping the winter away, the grizzly bear's hibernation leaves room for another predator to roam the ranges. Winter becomes the season of the wolf. Native to North America and Eurasia, the grey wolf is the ancestor of man's best friend. It is also one of Yellowstone's top predators. Like the grizzly, wolves once roamed the continent, but increased adversarial encounters with humans and livestock led to the decimation of wolf populations across the United States. By 1930, the grey wolf had become locally extinct in Yellowstone. A predator at the top of the food chain, the lack of wolves within the ecosystem led to it falling out of balance as ungulate populations exploded. This, in turn, devastated vegetation levels, as elk, bison, and pronghorn deer now had one less predator to worry about. This overabundance of primary consumers led to human interventions, culling the populations that no longer had a natural form of population control. It wasn't until nearly 50 years later that wolves returned. Between 1995 and 1997, 41 wolves were restored to Yellowstone National Park, heralding a shift in the ecosystem and a return to the natural balance. In the years that followed, their populations grew rapidly as the wolves established territories and formed packs. Since 2009, the population fluctuated between 83 and 123. Today, there are estimated to be at least 124 wolves within the national park, with a total of 10 packs ranging across 300 to 500 kilometers. With their shaggy coats and golden eyes, grey wolves cut a striking figure. Those thick coats of fur which protect against the winter cold range from white to black, with the main colour variations being black and grey. While half of the population of Yellowstone wolves have a black coat, genetic studies have found that the presence of this colour is tied to the presence of a specific gene. This gene, called the K locus, is thought to originate in domestic dogs, and its appearance in wolf populations suggests a hybridization of domesticated dogs and wolves sometime within the past 7,000 years. Further studies explored the link between coat colour, reproduction, survival, and behaviour. Thanks to the K locus gene, which plays a part in immune function, black wolves have a higher survival rate during outbreaks of canine distemper, a viral disease that attacks the respiratory, gastrointestinal, and nervous systems of canines. Disease is a constant threat that looms for wild creatures, and in 2005, a distemper outbreak killed 2/3 of the wolf pups within the park. Further outbreaks of distemper occurred in 2008 and 2009. Distemper is not the only disease that wolves must contend with. Sarcoptic mange, also known as scabies, is an infection caused by the Sarcoptes scabii mite. This tiny mite burrows into the wolf's skin, causing extreme itching that mimics an allergic reaction. Agitated by the feeling, the animal scratches the infected areas, which in turn results in secondary infections and hair loss. In 2009, a sarcoptic mange outbreak became an epidemic throughout the northern ranges of the park, but by 2011, it had mostly subsided. Though a natural part of the cycle of life, disease is not the only killer on the ranges. A pack's greatest enemy is another. Wolves are, by nature, territorial. The leading cause of death for wolves within the park is other wolves, as territorial disputes between packs turn violent. 65% of radio-collared wolves die at the claws of their rivals. Larger packs are more likely to win, defeating smaller packs and absorbing their territory, but smaller groups with more adults or more adult male members are capable of holding their ground. But though wolves may wage warfare with rival packs, their family bonds are some of the strongest. Unlike the elk and deer that packs prey upon, wolf pups are born blind and deaf. Prey species need to move fast and quick to avoid predators and move with the herd for safety. Wolves, however, are afforded more luxury. A female wolf will enter estrus early in the year, typically between January and February. In established packs, only the dominant mating pair will breed, and they do so once a year, with pups being born in mid-April. Typically, only the dominant breeding pair will mate, but if enough prey is available, multiple litters may be supported. Around 25% of packs have multiple breeding pairs. Born in the safety of the den, which may be dug beneath roots, boulders, or hillsides, pups spend their first 10 to 14 days in the warmth of the den with their mother. Though they are entirely reliant on their mothers at first, the duty of raising the pups falls to the pack as a whole. Wolf packs are a cohesive family unit. Highly social creatures, they form and maintain bonds through play, and adult members of a pack can be seen engaging in play fighting and games, both with each other and with their young. Communication between members of a pack is not always verbal, though barks, yips, growls, and howls are easily identifiable. A submissive wolf may lick the lips of an older, more dominant wolf or tuck its tail while approaching. Sound and body language may be the most noticeable forms of communication to us mere humans, but there is another, equally important form for wolves. Scent. Wolves use scent to mark the borders of their territory, an invisible fence line to people, but a pungent reminder of whose land is being encroached on for a wolf. Whether it be through feces, urination, or secretions from scent glands between the toes, scent marking tells an important olfactory story to a wolf's nose. Early studies conducted in 1975 by Peters and Meck suggested that the boundaries of a pack's territory were the primary locations of scent marking. But studies from the last few decades suggest otherwise. Zub et al. And Laneza et al. In 2003 and 2014 respectively found that some of the most important areas of a pack's territory, like their den sites, were also extensively marked. It is important to note here that while the 1975 study by Peters and Meck was conducted in North America, Zub et al. And Laneza et al. Both conducted their studies in Europe. Working together is integral for the survival of the pack. A pack of wolves on the hunt moves as a cohesive unit, as some members splinter off to nip at the heels of their prey or work together to cut a weak creature from the herd for easier picking. Throughout all seasons, the wolves' primary prey is elk, with 1.83 elk killed per wolf a month during winter. A wolf can eat up to 20% of its body weight in one sitting and requires 3.25 kilograms of food a day in order to survive. But hunting can be as deadly for the wolves as it is for their prey. Armed with hooves and antlers, the wolf's primary prey, elk, are by no means defenseless. Every time a pack hunts, they risk injury or even death. A wolf weighs, on average, around 45 kilograms, while a healthy adult elk can weigh anywhere between 226 and 340 kilograms, depending on age and sex. Wolves must be smart, resourceful, and work together as a pack to bring down a meal. For predators like the wolf, a vulnerable target is an ideal one. Wolves primarily kill, successfully, the young and old, or animals that are debilitated in some way, either by injury or sickness. But while wolves are known for their hunting prowess, their bodies are not necessarily built for killing. Unlike other large carnivores such as the cougar or grizzly bear, wolves lack muscular forearms and retractile claws. Their incisors and canines wear out with age, and their skull lacks the force for a killing bite, along with the ability to lock when biting prey. Male wolves have an advantage over females owing to their size and weight, allowing them to drag elk down easier. Maintaining social bonds and working together as a pack increases the survival for wolves. A lone wolf is a dead wolf. Pack bonds are not the only ones that wolves have either. Wolves and ravens have a unique relationship, as the large black birds will often follow wolf packs to scavenge from their kills. Intelligent, with complex communication and social skills, ravens are often seen with wolves and have been observed following a hunt from above. Surprisingly, this relationship is not purely one of kleptoparasitism, a relationship where one species steals from another. Rather, there are subtle indications of a mutualistic relationship between these two species. Without wolves to open a carcass, ravens are unable to make use of the meat, able to get only at the eyes of the fallen prey. So they rely on wolves and other predators to not only take down prey, but also to break open the skin, making its meat more accessible to scavengers like the birds. And while ravens are the clear winners of this partnership, the wolves benefit as well. With their keen eyes and heightened intellect, ravens make the perfect partner for hunts, fitting given their status as a harbinger of death. A group of ravens isn't called a murder for nothing after all. Hovering above the hunting pack, ravens act as lookouts and scouts for the wolves, alerting them not just to the presence of danger while feeding, but also potential targets. This mutually beneficial partnership is yet another example of the intricate interconnectedness of the natural world. Living with predators is not easy, yet their existence is a key component to maintaining the delicate balance between all living things within not just Yellowstone's ecosystem, but ecosystems around the world. In order for an ecosystem to flourish, a balance needs to be struck, the cycle allowed to continue. When that cycle is disrupted, things begin to go awry. Nature requires balance. The food web is intricate and interconnected. Predators like the grizzly, the grey wolf, and the mountain lion all play a vital role in population management of the primary consumers. Herbivores like the elk and bison that feed on foliage and plant matter. This flora is the producer, and it's kept in check by the primary consumers. Those primary consumers are in turn kept in check by predators. Without these predators, the landscape becomes muddled and overrun by herbivores as their populations no longer have a system of natural management. In ecology, this concept is called a trophic cascade. The concept of a trophic cascade was first put forth in 1960 by Hairston and colleagues. They argued that rather than an abundance of vegetation controlling the numbers of grazing herbivores, it was instead predators controlling their numbers. Without predators keeping the herbivore population in check, these consumers overgraze and eliminate vegetation areas that are vital to many small mammals, birds, and bugs. When apex predators are removed from an ecosystem, it creates a domino effect of disruption to the food web. Called a top-down cascade, it leads to an overabundance of these primary consumers, such as elk, which, as mentioned, then decimate plant life and vegetation. In Yellowstone, as the number of elk grew, human intervention had to happen in lieu of natural predators. Whether a trophic cascade occurred in Yellowstone with the removal of the grey wolf is a matter of scientific debate. Do predators like the grey wolf indirectly impact plants? In the case of Yellowstone, that question is focused on willow and aspen, woody plants that became stunted throughout the 20th century due to elk browsing. When wolves were reintroduced to the environment, elk populations naturally redistributed to avoid areas rife with danger. A trophic cascade in Yellowstone is an idea that today is generally accepted and has been widely popularized. Of course, scientists are an argumentative lot, and they have a tendency to disagree. Bayer et al. In 2007 claimed it was a behaviorally mediated trophic cascade, as elk avoided areas where they were at risk of predation. Marshall et al. In 2013 disagreed, instead positing that site and water availability played a part, while in 2010, Kaufman et al. Argued that there was no discernible regeneration of aspen, and that their study found that the impacts of elk browsing were not diminished in areas where elk were at a higher risk of predation, showing that no trophic cascade occurred. Despain offers another suggestion entirely, that it was climate change that played a part. Data from GPS-collared elk and wolves may reveal part of the answer. While elk do respond to the risk that wolves pose by avoiding these dangerous areas, they do so only when wolves are active. Nature is complex and has a tendency to defy attempts at categorizing it. Regardless of opinion, what we do know is that disruption to an ecosystem has wide-reaching, ongoing impacts, some of which aren't noticeable until decades later. In the case of Yellowstone, where conservation is ongoing, we are continuing to see a shift towards the natural balance. Grizzly bear populations have stabilized and may have even reached their peak, and wolves have returned to the ranges they once roamed. Conservation and management of the park is a matter that must continue through funding and understanding. Ecosystems are delicate, sometimes difficult to maintain, but all too easy to destabilize. With ongoing human interference and influences, we must remain alert to the ways in which our activity impacts the natural world. All creatures, big and small, and all living things, deserve respect and dignity. The beauty of Yellowstone has touched hearts across the globe, and millions flock to see the wonders it holds each year because of how it works, because of the beauty of the natural balance within. Yellowstone is a story of success, a story of splendor, and a story of an ecosystem in balance.